Sit back and enjoy 2 hours of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. This is a komondor, a traditional Hungarian guard dog. It is easily recognized by its long, corded coat, which helps it blend in with sheep and protects it from weather and possible attacks, making it a breed historically used to guard livestock. Before alarm clocks were invented, there was a profession called a knocker-upper, which involved going from client to client, tapping on their windows or knocking on their doors with long sticks until they woke up. This job lasted until the 1920s. There are underwater rivers that flow along the ocean floor, like this one found in Mexico. In reality, they are currents of water with different salinity and density that do not easily mix, creating the illusion of a river with defined banks. These phenomena are observed in cenotes and underwater caves, where you can even see waves and accumulated leaves as if it were a land river. Burger King in Japan launched 2 black burgers called Kuro Diamond and Kuro Pearl, with everything, including the bun, the sauce, and the cheese, dyed black with squid ink. Charcoal was also used in some ingredients to achieve the dark color. These burgers became popular due to their unusual appearance and were part of a marketing strategy focused on visually striking products. The smallest known reptile in the world is Brookesia micra, which is so small it can stand on the head of a match. This tiny chameleon was discovered in Madagascar and measures only a few centimeters in length. Its extreme size allows it to inhabit microhabitats like leaf litter, where it remains unnoticed by predators. After the movie The Princess and the Frog was released, more than 50 children in the United States were hospitalized with salmonella poisoning for kissing frogs. Health authorities warned about the risks of handling amphibians, as they can carry dangerous bacteria on their skin. This type of case reflects how some cultural influences can lead to unexpected behaviors, especially in young children. The Akal Teke is a famous riding horse breed known for its beauty and metallic sheen coat. Originating from Turkmenistan, it is one of the oldest breeds in the world and has been valued for its endurance in extreme climates. Its characteristic shine is due to the structure of its hair, which reflects light in an unusual way. When Charles Darwin first discovered giant tortoises in the Galapagos Islands, he tried to ride them. In his journals, he described his curiosity about these animals and their behavior, reflecting the scientific and exploratory interest he had during his travels. When the domestic parcel service was first introduced by the United States Postal Service in 1913, it was legal to mail children as long as they weighed less than 48 pounds. Some parents took advantage of this rule for a short time before it was explicitly banned for safety reasons. The Prince Charles Cinema in London has volunteer ninjas who quietly approach and silence anyone in the theater who is making noise or throwing things. This term is used humorously to describe their staff, known for enforcing rules firmly but in an entertaining way to maintain the atmosphere. There is a hybrid rose called the tiger-striped rose. These flowers have petals with contrasting line or stripe patterns, achieved through selective breeding, and they are highly valued in ornamental gardening for their unique and striking appearance. Their look varies depending on the variety and growing conditions. There is a fish in SpongeBob SquarePants that has appeared in multiple episodes with a clearly visible penis. This is due to unintentional animation details or visual jokes, since the series is primarily aimed at a children's audience and does not deliberately include explicit content. A baby octopus can be as small as the tip of your finger. At birth, many species are almost microscopic and are part of plankton, where they spend their early stages of life before growing and developing their adult characteristics. During this phase, they float in the open ocean and are highly vulnerable, so only a small fraction survive to adulthood. Hyperthymesia is an extremely rare condition that allows some people to remember with great precision details of almost every day of their lives. Several dozen cases have been documented worldwide, and those who have it can recall specific dates along with personal and public events without conscious effort. An adult giraffe's tongue measures approximately 21 inches long. In addition, it is dark in color, which helps protect it from sunburn while it feeds for long hours under the sun in the African savannas. It is also extremely strong and flexible, allowing it to wrap around branches and thorny leaves without injuring itself. It is actually possible to die from a broken heart. It is known as broken heart syndrome, and the medical term is stress-induced cardiomyopathy. This condition is usually triggered by intense emotions such as the loss of a loved one or a sudden shock, and it causes symptoms similar to a heart attack, although the heart does not show blocked arteries. There is a famous donut company called Voodoo Donut that also makes beer based on the flavors of the donuts they produce. This includes bacon and maple syrup beer, and chocolate, peanut butter, and banana beer. These collaborations are usually done with craft breweries and aim to replicate sweet flavors in liquid form. This is not a cartoon drawing of a tissue. It is a real sculpture by New Zealand artist Neil Dawson called Horizons. The piece uses a finely designed metal mesh that, from certain angles, appears to be a flat object floating in the air. It is installed in New Zealand and plays with visual perception, creating a surprising illusion depending on the viewer's position. Koi fish can live for many decades, and, under ideal conditions, some have reached exceptionally advanced stages. A famous case is that of a scarlet koi named Hanako, who, according to Japanese records, is said to have lived approximately 226 years before dying in 1977. However, this figure is based on traditional estimates and scale analysis, so not all scientists consider it fully verifiable. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 72 seconds and was nicknamed the WOW signal. To this day, we still do not know who or what it came from. It was detected by a radio telescope in Ohio as part of a project searching for extraterrestrial life, and its intensity and characteristics made it one of the most intriguing signals ever recorded. Bubble wrap was originally invented in 1957 to be sold as wallpaper. Its creators were trying to produce a decoration with a three-dimensional texture, but when it failed in that use, they discovered its potential as protective packaging material. Over time, it became a widely used product in shipping. Una Chaplin, the actress who plays Talisa in Game of Thrones, is actually the granddaughter of Charlie Chaplin. She is also the daughter of Geraldine Chaplin, also an actress, making her part of a family with a long tradition in film and the performing arts at an international level. President Barack Obama was known as Barry Obama in high school due to his ability on the basketball team. During his youth in Hawaii, his classmates nicknamed him that, and he himself used that name informally before adopting Barack more officially in his adult life, especially during his college years. The Santa Rita do Sapucaí prison in Brazil allows its inmates to pedal on stationary bicycles to generate energy for the lights of a nearby town in exchange for reducing their sentences. For every 16 hours they pedal, 1 day is deducted from their sentence. If police officers in Thailand misbehave, they may be publicly humiliated by being forced to wear bright pink Hello Kitty armbands. This disciplinary measure has been used in some departments as a symbolic form of punishment, aiming to correct behavior without resorting to more severe sanctions. The idea is to create a social impact that discourages future misconduct. There is an artist named Scott Wade who is famous for creating art in dust using only his fingers and a brush. His works are usually made on car windows covered in dust, where he creates detailed portraits and scenes. Although they are temporary and can disappear with rain or movement, they have gained international recognition for their level of detail and technique. Mosquitoes do not just bite you. They also urinate on you after sucking your blood. In reality, as they feed, they quickly expel excess liquid to concentrate nutrients, which can happen almost at the same time they are feeding, although this process is microscopic and goes completely unnoticed by people. In addition, this rapid expulsion allows them to fly again without increasing their weight too much. In the novel Forrest Gump, on which the movie was based, the story is far more extravagant than the film version. At one point, the protagonist even travels to space with NASA, and after an emergency landing, ends up on a remote island where he must use his ingenuity to survive, making the book a much more surreal and curious version than the well-known movie. Yale University has a rare books and manuscripts library with no windows, but instead it has walls made entirely of translucent marble that prevent the books from being exposed to direct sunlight. This design allows diffused, natural light to pass through while protecting materials that are extremely sensitive to deterioration. A woman from Michigan named Barbara Soper gave birth on August 8, 2008, September 9, 2009, and October 10, 2010. The odds of this happening are 50 million to 1. The coincidence of dates generated major media attention, although this type of calculation can vary depending on how statistical factors are considered. Humans and bananas share approximately 50% of the same DNA. In reality, this comparison refers to similarities in certain basic genes that all living beings share, since many fundamental cellular functions are common among very different species. This does not mean we are alike, but rather that life shares a common biological origin. Due to its crystal clear water, Flathead Lake in Montana appears shallow, but it is actually 371 feet deep. This clarity is partly due to the low presence of nutrients and sediments, which limits algae growth. It is one of the cleanest freshwater lakes in the United States, and its visibility can reach several feet below the surface under ideal conditions. If you search Zerg Rush on Google, the search engine will eat the results page. This was an Easter egg inspired by the video game StarCraft, where small letters would invade the screen. Although it was later removed, it can still be experienced in archived versions or online simulators. It became one of the platform's most memorable tricks. This is the 3Doodler. It is the world's first 3D printing pen that can draw in the air. It works by extruding hot plastic that cools quickly, allowing the creation of three-dimensional structures without the need for a base. It has been used for both creative and educational purposes, especially in design and hands-on learning. There is a phenomenon that occurs in the Mekong River in Thailand, where red fireballs, called Naga fireballs, shoot randomly into the air, and no one knows why it happens. These lights usually appear on certain nights of the year, especially in October, and although there are theories pointing to flammable natural gases, there is still no widely accepted scientific explanation. In 2012, in China, a man named Zhao Fan had 9,999 red roses sewn into a dress for his girlfriend before proposing to her. She said yes. The number chosen was not accidental, as in Chinese culture, the number 9 is associated with eternity and good fortune, adding special symbolism to the romantic gesture. Venezuela still has one of the cheapest fuels in the world, with subsidized prices that can be as low as just a few cents per liter. This low cost is due to long-standing state policies, although it has also created economic problems and distortions in the domestic market. The founders and original owners of Macy's, Isidore and Ida Strauss, died on the Titanic. They were the elderly couple in the movie who went to bed while the ship was sinking, which is what actually happened. In real life, Ida refused to board a lifeboat without her husband and chose to stay with him. They were last seen together on deck, and their story became a symbol of love and loyalty during the tragedy. The Kevlar bulletproof vest was invented by a pizza delivery man named Richard Davis after being shot twice on the job. In reality, Kevlar was developed by chemist Stephanie Kwolek at the company DuPont, while Davis helped popularize the vests by demonstrating them publicly, even testing them on himself to show their effectiveness. In Dubai, Lamborghinis, Aston Martins, Bentleys, and Ferraris are used as police cars. These vehicles are part of a special fleet mainly intended for tourist patrols and events rather than real pursuits. Their use helps project an image of luxury and modernity, while also attracting visitors and promoting the city internationally. One of the oldest and most famous roads in Rome is the Appian Way. It was built in 312 BC and is still used today. It originally connected Rome with southern Italy and was key for trade and military movement in the Roman Empire, standing out for its durable engineering with large stone slabs that have allowed its preservation over the centuries. Every employee at the Ben & Jerry's factory can take home 3 pints of ice cream every day. This benefit is part of the company's internal culture, known for offering unusual perks to its workers. However, the amount may vary depending on location and internal policies at each facility. The author J.K. Rowling, from the Harry Potter universe, was a billionaire until she donated so much of her wealth to charity that she lost her billionaire status. Her contributions include donations to charitable organizations, medical causes, and social programs, which has been widely recognized. Oreo O's are a type of cereal that for years was difficult to find outside South Korea, but over time it returned to markets such as the United States and other international regions. Even so, its availability remains limited and varies by location. There is a religion called Christian atheism. Its practitioners essentially believe in the same things as traditional Christians, except that the Bible is completely metaphorical and that God is an allegory of human morality rather than a real being. This approach seeks to maintain ethical teachings without adopting supernatural beliefs, and it usually focuses on values such as compassion, social justice, and personal responsibility within a community. In 2011, photographer Eric Solheim created an image made of 365 strips, with each strip representing each day of the year. The photograph was taken from a window throughout the entire year, capturing how light, weather, and seasons change. By combining them into a single image, a continuous visual transition of time can be seen in one landscape. In the United Kingdom, the Queen could not be arrested, no matter what crime she committed. This is because the Crown itself is the prosecuting authority in the United Kingdom. Therefore, there cannot be a case of the Crown against the Crown. This immunity is not shared by other members of the royal family. In Egypt, actors were once not allowed to testify in court because they were considered professional liars. This restriction existed for centuries in various legal systems, where the credibility of certain professions was questioned, although over time these limitations were removed as laws modernized and fairer standards for testimony were adopted. The largest man-made hole in the world is the Bingham Canyon copper mine in Utah, with approximately 0.62 miles of depth, 2.48 miles of width, and covering about 1,900 acres. It is an open-pit mine that has been in operation since the late 19th century and has produced millions of tons of copper, being visible even from space. There is a luxury hotel in Fiji called Poseidon Resort, where for $15,000 per week, you can sleep on the ocean floor and even have a button to feed the fish right outside your window. The Snuggery is a service where you can hire someone and pay them $60 per hour to come cuddle with you. These types of non-sexual contact services have emerged in various cities as a way to combat loneliness, and they usually include strict rules to ensure the comfort and safety of both people. In 2013, Vietnam inaugurated a new steel bridge that, like a dragon, literally breathes fire. It is called the Dragon Bridge. It is located in Da Nang and has become one of its main tourist attractions. The show usually takes place on weekend nights, when it also sprays water, and its design symbolizes power, prosperity, and good fortune in Vietnamese culture. Bob Marley's last words to his son Ziggy were, "Money cannot buy life." This phrase has become emblematic because it summarizes his philosophy about the spiritual and the material, reflecting how, even at the end of his life, he prioritized meaning and essence over wealth. In 1979, at the age of 17, a man named Jadav Payeng began planting trees out of concern for the loss of habitat for local animals. He has continued doing this for more than 35 years, and today, on his own, has restored more than 1,360 acres of forest. Bon Jovi has a restaurant in New Jersey called Soul Kitchen, where there are no fixed prices. Instead, customers donate money or volunteer to pay for their meal, with the goal of helping people facing food insecurity and encouraging community support. On Monday, March 23, 2178, Pluto will complete its first full orbit since its original discovery in 1930. Because its orbit around the Sun takes approximately 248 Earth years, no human has yet witnessed a complete Plutonian year, making this event more symbolic than observable within a single lifetime. On Good Friday in 1930, the BBC announced that there was no news, followed by piano music. At that time, news programming was limited, and when there were no significant events, the time was simply filled with music instead of additional content, also reflecting a more formal and slower tone in media of that era. In the dense forests of Finland, there is a giant rock known as Kumakivi that is perfectly balanced on a seemingly smooth, curved base. Its name translates as strange rock, as no one knows how it got there. It is believed to have been placed by glaciers during the last ice age, which moved massive rocks and left them in unusual positions. Happy Pizza is a type of pizza sold in Cambodia that is topped with marijuana. This type of dish emerged as a tourist curiosity in some establishments, although its availability and legality can vary over time due to changes in regulations. In many cases, establishments warn customers about its effects before consuming it. Only 2% of the world's population has green eyes. This color is one of the rarest, and is due to a specific combination of low melanin pigmentation and the way light scatters in the iris, a phenomenon similar to what makes the sky appear blue. There is a device known as a ventricular assist device, or VAD, that can permanently replace the function of your heart. The only side effect is that you have no pulse. These devices help pump blood in patients with severe heart failure, and although they do not always fully replace the heart, they can keep a person alive for long periods. Every person on Earth, including you and me, has lines on the body called Blaschko's lines, which can only be seen under certain conditions, such as under ultraviolet light. These lines follow patterns of cellular development and can become visible in certain diseases or skin conditions. The strongest beer in the world is called snake venom, with 67.5% alcohol, and it is so strong that it comes with a warning label on the neck of the bottle. Due to its high alcohol content, it is recommended to consume it in very small quantities, similar to distilled spirits rather than a conventional beer. It is produced in limited quantities, and its process includes special techniques to increase alcohol concentration. In 1984, after their introduction, Air Jordans were banned by the NBA. However, Michael Jordan wore them anyway, as Nike was willing to pay the $5,000 fine every time he stepped onto the court. In March 2013, a man got a tattoo of the word Netflix on his side, and after tweeting a photo to the company, he was given a year of free service. The story went viral and was used as an example of the impact of social media on marketing campaigns. This incredible sculpture is located in Philadelphia, United States, created by artist Zenos Frudakis and known as Freedom. The piece shows a human figure progressively emerging from a wall, symbolizing the struggle to break free from physical or mental limitations, and it has become a highly photographed attraction for visitors. There is a Coca-Cola machine in Singapore that says, "Hug me," and gives free cans of soda to anyone who hugs it. This type of machine was part of advertising campaigns designed to generate emotional interaction and virality on social media. The initiative aims to promote positive messages such as connection and shared happiness. This is the famous water slide at the Mayan temple in Atlantis Paradise Island in the Bahamas, which features an almost completely vertical drop into an underwater tunnel surrounded by sharks. Incredible. The attraction is known as Leap of Faith and is part of a luxury resort complex. Although it looks extreme, the tunnel is completely safe and allows visitors to see sharks and other fish up close without any risk. Since 1945, all British tanks have been equipped with facilities to make tea. This tradition reflects the cultural importance of tea in the United Kingdom and the need to maintain crew morale in combat situations. In the early 20th century, horses caused so much pollution with their manure that automobiles were seen as the ecological alternative. In large cities, excess waste created public health issues and strong odors, so motor vehicles were considered a cleaner solution in that historical context. In some countries, such as Mexico, Germany, Austria, and Denmark, it is not illegal to escape from prison, as long as the fugitive does not break any laws in the process. This is based on the legal idea that the desire for freedom is a natural human instinct, although any damage, violence, or additional crime during the escape is punished. The shortest presidency in world history was that of President Pedro Lascarain of Mexico, who served for less than 1 hour on February 19, 1913. His brief term occurred during a coup and was intended to fulfill a legal requirement to transfer power, making it a unique case in political history. The small pocket inside the larger pocket of your jeans was originally designed for pocket watches. Over time, although watches stopped being used that way, the design remained as a classic element in the construction of pants. In 2007, in Louisiana, an albino pink bottlenose dolphin was discovered and photographed by a man named Eric Rue. The animal, nicknamed Pinky, drew attention due to its unusual coloration, caused by a genetic condition that reduces pigmentation. Despite its appearance, it has been seen swimming normally alongside other dolphins in its natural habitat. Anouptophobia is the fear of staying single or marrying the wrong person. Although it is not a very common term in clinical psychology, it reflects a real social anxiety related to cultural pressure about marriage and expectations of life as a couple. It can manifest in impulsive decisions or in avoiding relationships due to fear of making a mistake. In 2011, a 99-year-old Italian man named Antonio C. divorced his 96-year-old wife, Rosa C., after finding secret love letters that revealed she had an affair in the 1940s. In 2011, a man named Richard James Verone robbed a bank for $1 so that he could be sent to jail and receive free medical care, since he had no insurance or resources to pay for his treatment, which sparked debate about the healthcare system in the United States. In 1976, a Princeton student named John Aristotle Phillips, who was not particularly outstanding in his studies, presented a paper in which he theoretically analyzed a very complex topic related to nuclear physics. The project attracted so much attention that it was reviewed by authorities. The word muggle has been added to the Oxford Dictionary and is defined as a person who lacks a particular skill. The term became popular thanks to the Harry Potter series, and its inclusion reflects how popular culture can directly influence everyday language. Today, it is also used informally to refer to someone without knowledge in a specific subject. The series Game of Thrones reached a budget of approximately $15 million per episode in its later seasons, making it one of the most expensive television productions of its time. This figure far exceeds the average cost of a TV series, which typically ranges between $2 and $5 million per episode, depending on the type of production and network. If you arrange the first letters of the main characters' names in the movie Inception, Dom, Robert, Eames, Arthur, Mal, and Saito, it spells dreams. This detail was intentional and reflects the central theme of the film related to dreams and the manipulation of the mind. Newman's Own Food has donated 100% of its after-tax profits to charity since 1982, totaling more than $400 million. The company was founded by actor Paul Newman with a philanthropic approach, and over time the donated amount has continued to grow significantly, making it a rare model of a fully charitable business. This is the glass floor of the CN Tower in Toronto, one of the most famous observation platforms in the world. Walking on it allows you to look directly down at the city from a great height, which can be an impressive or quite intimidating experience, especially for those afraid of heights. All Pixar staff had to take a graduate-level class in fish biology before making Finding Nemo. This helped the animators better understand movement, behavior, and the marine environment, achieving a level of realism and detail that was uncommon in animated films. They also visited aquariums to study fish directly. Crying is actually very healthy for you. It not only helps emotionally, but also lubricates your eyes, removes toxins and irritants, and reduces stress. In addition, emotional tears contain hormones related to stress, so releasing them can create a sense of physical and mental relief. Singapore has the highest percentage of millionaires in the world, with 1 in 6 households having at least $1 million in available wealth. This figure is based on wealth studies that consider liquid assets, such as cash and investments, reflecting the country's high income levels, financial development, and role as a global economic hub. There is a resort complex in Japan called Tomamu Resort that is located on top of a mountain and allows guests to see a sea of white, fluffy clouds below them. This phenomenon occurs when clouds are trapped at low altitude, creating the illusion of an ocean in the sky, and it is especially visible at sunrise under specific weather conditions. In the United Kingdom, people who turn 100 years old or celebrate their 60th wedding anniversary receive a personalized card from the Queen. This tradition continues today with the current monarch and is officially managed, requiring family members or representatives to request the letter in advance. For many families, receiving it is a very special, symbolic recognition. It has been observed that in the wild, some baboons may interact in unusual ways with young from other species, even carrying them around for a period of time and raising them like pets. This behavior has been documented mainly in chacma baboons, where they sometimes abduct puppies or other animals. Although it may appear affectionate, it is not always beneficial for the young, as they often do not receive proper care or survive. It was discovered that wealthy Russians often hire fake ambulances to beat city traffic. Known as ambulance taxis, they cost up to $200 per hour and feature luxury interiors and refreshments, including caviar and champagne. This phenomenon emerged in cities with heavy traffic, where emergency vehicles can move faster, although it has been criticized for abusing a system intended for real emergencies. There is a Russian novel published in 1999 called The Last Ring-Bearer, which tells the Lord of the Rings from Sauron's perspective. The work offers an alternative view where events are reinterpreted, questioning the traditional narrative of good versus evil. In 2005, a man named Ronald McDonald robbed a Wendy's in Manchester, England. Although he had no connection to the brand, he was arrested shortly afterward, and the story went viral due to the unusual and almost ironic nature of his name. In 2013, more than 200 strangers responded to a Facebook invitation to attend the funeral of British veteran James McConnell, who otherwise had no friends or family to attend. The story spread through social media and local news, motivating people to pay their respects and showing how solidarity can arise even among strangers. In the United States, April 2nd is National Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich Day. This celebration is part of the many unofficial food-related holidays that honor popular dishes within American culture. This is the tip of a pen highly magnified. At this level of enlargement, you can observe details such as the texture of the metal and the small ball that distributes the ink, showing how an everyday object has surprisingly precise engineering. There is a type of fish called Anabantidae, better known as the climbing gourami, that has the ability to leave the water, breathe oxygen, and even walk. This is possible thanks to a special organ called the labyrinth, which allows it to temporarily survive outside of water in search of new habitats. It can move short distances using undulating movement. In 1961, Italian artist Piero Manzoni filled 90 cans with his own feces, called them artist shit, and sold them according to their weight in gold. This is where the Caribbean meets the Atlantic in Eleuthera, Bahamas. In this area, known as Glass Window Bridge, you can clearly see the contrast between the dark blue of the Atlantic and the bright turquoise of the Caribbean. Michael Birch, the founder of the social networking site Bebo, sold it to AOL for $850 million in 2008, only to buy it back for $1 million in 2013. The platform had lost much of its popularity during those years, which allowed it to be repurchased at a much lower price. This unusual frog is Atelopus varius, also known as the Costa Rican harlequin toad or simply clown frog, and it is an endangered species. Its bright coloration warns predators of its toxicity, and it inhabits fast-flowing rivers and tropical forests. It has been severely affected by the chytrid fungus, a disease that has decimated amphibian populations worldwide. A software company called PC Pitstop once hit a $1,000 prize in its terms of service just to see if anyone would read them. After 5 months and more than 3,000 sales, someone finally claimed the prize, showing how little attention most people pay to this type of legal document. This wooden cabinet is a real piece of art called Good Vibrations by Ferruccio Laviani and is designed to look like a digital glitch. The visual distortion is achieved through precisely carved layers of wood, creating a glitch effect that looks like something from a broken screen, even though it is completely solid and handmade. The largest natural bridge in the world is the Ferry Bridge in China, and it was virtually unknown to the rest of the world until it was spotted on Google Maps. Its enormous size and remote location made it difficult to study for years, until satellite images made it more accessible to the public. The age of fish can be determined in the same way as trees. Fish scales have a growth ring for each year of age. These rings, called growth rings, form due to seasonal changes in the fish's development and allow scientists to estimate their age with considerable accuracy. Strawberries are not considered a berry, but a banana is. In fact, strawberries have their own classification, which is accessory fruit. In the case of strawberries, the small, visible seeds on their surface are actually the true fruits, while the red part is tissue that supports them. This classification is based on botanical criteria and not on common language usage. In 2008, a 19-year-old from Somerset, England named George Garrett officially changed his name to, wait for it, Captain Fantastic faster than Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, Wolverine, Hulk, and Flash combined. Wow. The change was legally registered through a deed poll, a relatively simple process in the United Kingdom. Although it is valid in official documents, his original name is still the most commonly used in everyday contexts for practicality. This is what rain looks like from the view of an airplane. From that height, individual drops are not visible, but rather darker or more diffuse areas in the clouds and landscape, offering a completely different perspective of the phenomenon. In 1985, a man from New Orleans named Jerome Moody lost his life in a swimming pool during a party attended by numerous lifeguards who were celebrating having gone the entire summer without incidents. The event was especially shocking due to the unexpected irony of the situation. The Eucalyptus deglupta, better known as the rainbow tree, is a tree that sheds its outer bark to reveal a bright green inner bark that turns blue, purple, orange, and maroon as it matures. This process occurs in irregular patches, creating a continuous, multicolored effect that changes over time, especially in tropical climates where it grows more intensely. In 1973, billionaire J. Paul Getty refused to pay a ransom of $17 million for his grandson. When the teenager's ear arrived, he agreed to pay $3 million, but actually only paid $2.2 million because that was the maximum tax-deductible amount. Oh, and he loaned the other $800,000 to his son on the condition that it be repaid with interest. There is a metal called gallium that melts in your hand. It has a very low melting point, so it can go from solid to liquid with body heat, making it popular in scientific demonstrations. And it also expands when it solidifies, which can break containers if it cools inside them. This small and cute little friend is called the golden snub-nosed monkey and is one of the most critically endangered primate species in the world. It lives in the mountains of central China and is known for its blue face and golden fur. Its population has declined due to habitat loss, although conservation programs have been implemented in recent years to protect it. Helium is a limited resource on Earth, since it forms slowly and can escape into space once released. Although for years it was estimated that it could run out within a few decades, new discoveries and improvements in production have extended reserves, so an imminent shortage is not expected, although its availability remains a long-term concern. In addition, it is essential for medical and technological applications, such as magnetic resonance imaging equipment. In Moscow, stray dogs have learned to travel from the suburbs into the city to search for food and then take the train back home at night. Researchers have observed that some recognize stations, schedules, and human patterns, using the metro as a survival tool. It has even been documented that they prefer less crowded cars and specific routes where food is more likely to be found. Doritos could be made without the powder and taste exactly the same, but the company adds it intentionally because they believe it is part of the Doritos experience. That coating also affects texture, aroma, and how the flavor is perceived when eating them. It is possible to hire an evil clown to terrorize your son or daughter for an entire week before their birthday. For a fee, performer Dominic DeVille will increasingly stalk your child, leave terrifying notes and phone calls, and eventually attack them on their birthday by smashing a cake in their face. Happy birthday! In 1919, Walt Disney was fired from the Kansas City Star because, according to his editor, he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. This episode happened when he was working as a young illustrator, and over time, it became one of the most cited anecdotes about how early rejection did not prevent him from developing one of the most influential careers in animation. In 2009, a 10-year-old British girl named Zoe Pemberton tried to sell her grandmother on eBay because she found her annoying and wanted to get rid of her. The listing was quickly removed by the platform as it violated its policies, but the case went viral in media and online, highlighting the unintended humor of the situation. In 2010, a Nigerian couple living in the United Kingdom gave birth to a blonde, blue-eyed white baby who was called the Miracle Baby. Experts explained that it could be due to a rare genetic combination or mutation, generating widespread media attention at the time. There is a restaurant in Los Angeles called Eva Restaurant that gives a 5% discount on the total bill to customers who hand over their cell phones before being seated. The idea behind this initiative is to encourage face-to-face conversation and improve the social experience during meals, something that has drawn attention for its unusual approach. Human brain cells, the universe, and the internet have similar structures. Studies have compared the organization of neural networks with the distribution of galaxies and digital nodes, finding similar patterns in how they connect and are distributed, although they serve completely different functions. These similarities are observed in mathematical models of complex networks. The Statue of Liberty was originally intended to be a gift from France to the Egyptians, but when it was rejected, it was instead given to the United States in honor of its centennial. In reality, sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi first proposed a statue for the Suez Canal, inspired by an Egyptian figure, but the project did not move forward due to costs. He later reused the idea to create the famous statue that today symbolizes freedom and immigration in New York. There is a charity in the United Kingdom and the United States called Project Prevention that pays $300 to addicts to be sterilized. To this day, they have paid more than 4,000 participants. The initiative has generated controversy due to ethical concerns related to consent and vulnerability. This is Chung Daeun. She is a celebrity in Korea not only for her beauty, but because she looks 20 years younger than she actually is. She is 48 years old. She became known for her exercise routines and healthy lifestyle, publishing fitness programs that gained great popularity, especially among people looking to stay in shape with accessible methods. The former president of Uruguay, José Mujica, was known as one of the most austere leaders in the world, since during his presidency, he donated around 90% of his salary to charitable organizations and social projects. Instead of living in the presidential residence, he continued living in his modest rural home on the outskirts of Montevideo, which reinforced his image of simplicity. After leaving office in 2015, he maintained that lifestyle and continued to be a symbolic figure of austerity and personal integrity. A can of Diet Coke will float in water, while a can of regular Coca-Cola will sink. Try it. This happens because the regular version contains a large amount of dissolved sugar that increases its density, while the diet version uses smaller amounts of sweeteners, making the can less dense than water and able to float. Nemo makes an appearance in the movie Monsters, Inc. as a toy that Boo gives to Sully, 2 full years before Finding Nemo was released. In fact, Pixar movies are famous for being full of secrets like this, including cross-references, internal codes, and hidden Easter eggs that connect their stories. There is an Italian artist named Emanuele Dascagno who creates incredible hyper-realistic artworks using nothing but pencils of different tones. His work stands out for the extreme level of detail and textures such as skin, fabric, and reflections, making his drawings look like photographs. He also combines graphite with charcoal and other traditional techniques to enhance depth and realism. The traffic jam on China National Highway 110 is considered the longest traffic jam in history. It stretched for more than 62 miles and lasted nearly 11 days, affecting thousands of drivers who moved only a few miles per day due to road construction and excess cargo. In 1983, Marvel published a comic called Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham. It featured a pig version of Spider-Man named, wait for it, Peter Porker. The character began as a parody in an alternate universe populated by animal versions of known heroes. Over time, it gained popularity and appeared in animated series and films, becoming a cult favorite among fans. The distance between Europe and Africa is only about 9 miles. Such a short distance, in fact, that there has even been discussion of creating a massive bridge between the two continents across the Strait of Gibraltar. However, technical, political, and environmental challenges have prevented this type of project from being carried out so far. There is a man named Tim Harris with Down syndrome who owns and runs a restaurant in Albuquerque, New Mexico called Tim's Place, where they serve breakfast, lunch, and hugs. It is the only known restaurant owned by a person with Down syndrome and is known as the friendliest restaurant in the world. Steve Jobs' last words were, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow." According to his family, he said them while looking at his loved ones, and they have been interpreted as an expression of awe in his final moments. His sister mentioned that he was looking beyond them, which has led to different interpretations about what he might have perceived at that moment. Bob Marley was buried with his red Gibson guitar, an open Bible to Psalm 23, and a bud of marijuana. His funeral took place in Jamaica and combined elements of his Rastafarian faith and Christian traditions, reflecting his spiritual and cultural identity. These items symbolized his music, his faith, and his connection to the culture that deeply influenced his life and legacy. The country of Niue, an island northeast of New Zealand, placed several Pokémon on its $1 coins in 2001, including Pikachu, Squirtle, Meowth, Bulbasaur, and Charmander. These coins were legal tender, but were mainly intended for collectors and fans of the franchise. A man named Peng Shui-Lin from China suffered the amputation of half of his body after being hit by a truck, and not only recovered, but also opened his own discount supermarket called, as expected, the Half-Man, Half-Price Store. Statistically, you are more likely to die on your way to buy a lottery ticket than to win the lottery itself. This is because the odds of winning major prizes are usually extremely low, often 1 in several million, making other everyday risks comparatively more likely. When a person lies, they experience an increase in temperature around the nose. This is known as the Pinocchio effect. Some studies have observed slight thermal changes in the face associated with stress or cognitive effort, although it is not a reliable indicator of lying on its own, as these reactions can also occur due to nervousness or other emotions. In Trout Creek, Montana, there is a place called the Shire of Montana, which is a replica of a hobbit village where anyone can stay for $295 per night. The houses are partially underground, with round doors and handcrafted details that faithfully recreate the style described in fantasy novels. In 2005, Swedish millionaire Johan Eliash bought 988,000 acres of land in the Amazon rainforest from a logging company with the sole purpose of preserving it. The purchase aimed to prevent deforestation and promote ecosystem conservation, becoming an unusual example of private investment focused on large-scale environmental protection. It would take more than 51 million balloons to lift an average 1,990 square foot house off the ground, like in the movie Up. This calculation depends on the size of the balloons and the weight of the structure. And in practice, it would be extremely difficult to achieve due to stability and material strength. This is what firing a Glock 22 underwater looks like. Although these weapons can function submerged, the bullet quickly loses speed due to water resistance, drastically reducing its range. Additionally, firing them under these conditions can cause greater internal wear, so it is not recommended outside controlled testing or demonstrations. Facebook tracks and records your IP addresses, as well as the address of every website you visit that uses any of its social plugins, such as the like button. You do not need to be logged in or even have an account. This is due to tracking systems using cookies and scripts embedded in millions of web pages. This data is mainly used to personalize content and advertising. Putting dry tea bags in smelly shoes or gym bags is an easy and quick way to absorb unpleasant odors. This works because tea leaves can absorb moisture and neutralize smells, similar to baking soda. Additionally, some types of tea contain natural compounds with antibacterial properties that help reduce the causes of bad odor. The word vodka in Russian translates as little water in English. It comes from the word voda, which means water, and the diminutive suffix ka, which gives it that meaning of small water, reflecting both its transparent appearance and its traditional role in Slavic culture, where it has been a common drink for centuries. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai is the tallest man-made structure in the world, standing at 2,723 feet tall. Its construction took around 6 years and required thousands of workers. It has more than 160 habitable floors, and its design helps reduce wind impact, a key factor at that height. It can also be seen from dozens of miles away on clear days. The man who designed Saddam Hussein's secret bunker was the grandson of the woman who designed Adolf Hitler's. This historical coincidence has been cited as a curious example of how certain military engineering knowledge can be passed down through generations. It also reflects unexpected connections between different periods in history. The owner of tractors, Ferruccio Lamborghini, expressed his frustration about the clutch of his Ferrari to the brand's founder, Enzo Ferrari. Enzo insulted him by saying the problem was the driver and not the car, so Ferruccio decided to start his own automobile company. And that is how Lamborghini was born. The reason people traditionally wear wedding rings on the left ring finger is because, before medical science discovered how the circulatory system works, people believed there was a vein that ran directly from the fourth finger of the left hand to the heart. This supposed vein was called the vena amoris, and although it does not actually exist, the tradition remained because of its romantic meaning. There is an item from the so-called McDonald's secret menu that some people know as the McGangbang. It consists of combining a McChicken with a double cheeseburger, creating an unconventional mix that has become popular online among those who enjoy trying unusual menu combinations. The Beast from Disney's Beauty and the Beast is a creature called a chimera, with the characteristics and body parts of 7 different animals. Its design includes traits of a lion, buffalo, gorilla, bear, boar, wolf, and human, giving it a unique appearance meant to reflect both strength and sensitivity in the character. It also helps make it intimidating yet empathetic. According to lunar scientists, all the American flags that are still standing on the moon are probably completely white now due to solar radiation. The intense exposure to ultraviolet radiation and the extreme conditions of space have degraded the colors over time, as there is no atmosphere to protect the materials. If you search for the word askew on Google, the page will tilt slightly to the right. This effect is one of several hidden Easter eggs in the search engine, created by engineers as small interactive details that do not affect functionality, but add a curious and fun touch to the user experience. The Code of Hammurabi is a well-preserved Babylonian law code that dates back to 1772 BC. It included progressive laws, such as minimum wage and the right to be a free man, and it was written long before the Bible. Queen Elizabeth II actually employed someone to wear her shoes before she did, in order to soften them and make sure they were comfortable. This person was her personal assistant, who was responsible for breaking in the footwear to prevent discomfort. This allowed her to attend long events without discomfort. There is a tribe in India called the War Khasis that has passed down through generations the art of manipulating tree roots to create a system of living bridges. They use roots from rubber trees that they carefully guide over years to form strong structures. These bridges can take decades to complete, but they grow stronger over time and can last for centuries. Modern gold medals contain only 1.3% gold. The last time a solid gold medal was awarded was at the Stockholm Olympic Games in 1912. Today, they are mainly made of silver coated with gold, which allows the tradition to continue without the enormous cost of pure metal. Even so, they must contain a minimum amount of gold according to Olympic standards, maintaining their symbolic value more than their material value. During his presidency between 1961 and 1963, John F. Kennedy never once accepted his salary of $150,000. Instead, each year he donated the full amount to charity. At the Cosmo World Amusement Park in Yokohama, Japan, there is a roller coaster called Vanish that submerges its passengers into a massive underwater tunnel. The experience simulates disappearing into the water, and the tunnel was sealed with special engineering to withstand pressure and ensure complete safety. A group of hackers called UG the Nazi disabled the Papa John's website because the company took 2 hours longer than expected to deliver their food. The incident occurred in the early years of the internet, when denial of service attacks were more common and easier to execute, and although it started as an absurd complaint, it ended up drawing attention to corporate digital security. In 2009, Burger King launched a campaign where, if you deleted 10 friends on Facebook, you were entitled to a free Whopper through the application called Whopper Sacrifice. Your friend would receive a message telling them that their friendship was worth less than a hamburger. The campaign quickly went viral and sparked debate about the value of relationships on social media. It even led to intervention by the platform over privacy concerns. The creator of Peter Pan, J.M. Barrie, gave the rights of the franchise to the Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital so they could collect royalties and fund the hospital permanently. This philanthropic gesture was made in 1929, and since then, the institution has received income from adaptations and performances, contributing to its sustainability over decades. Your cell phone can have up to 10 times more bacteria than a toilet seat. This is because we constantly touch it with our hands and rarely disinfect it, and its warm surface encourages the buildup of microorganisms, although most are not necessarily harmful to health. Cleaning it regularly can significantly reduce this bacterial load. Aerogel, also known as frozen smoke, is one of the lowest density solids in the world, as it is composed of between 95 and 99% air. It is almost impossible to see or feel, yet it can support 4,000 times its own weight. An artist in Mexico created a series of underwater sculptures that function as both art and artificial reefs. These works not only attract tourists, but also promote marine life by serving as a base for corals and other species, contributing to the restoration of damaged ecosystems. Over time, many pieces become covered with marine life, integrating into the environment. In 2012, a 19-year-old teenager secretly lived inside AOL headquarters for 2 full months in Palo Alto, California. He ate free food, used the gyms and showers, and even slept in conference rooms, all while working on his own startup. Everyone simply assumed he worked there. It is possible for a cat to be its own fraternal twin. These cats, known as chimera cats, are a rarity that occurs when 2 fertilized eggs merge. This can result in unique coat patterns, such as faces split into 2 perfectly distinct colors. This is a mirrored cabin called Lucidstead, created by 70-year-old artist Philip K. Smith in California. It is made of wood, mirrors, and custom electronic equipment, and attracts hundreds of art enthusiasts every year. During the day, it reflects the surrounding desert, and at night, it lights up with slowly changing LED lights, blending into the landscape. GhostSingles.com is a real dating site for ghosts. The site exists as a humorous concept on the internet and is designed to entertain, allowing users to create fictional profiles and explore the idea of dating in a paranormal context, including imaginary stories, supernatural descriptions, and creative messages that parody traditional online dating platforms. It is illegal to wear a bulletproof vest while committing murder in New Jersey. This rule is part of additional laws that increase penalties when certain items are used or carried, aiming to discourage especially dangerous behavior by adding extra charges to violent crimes. The orca, better known as the killer whale, actually belongs to the dolphin family. It is the largest member of this group and is characterized by its high intelligence, complex social structures, and ability to communicate through sounds and vocalizations, as well as displaying cooperative hunting techniques and distinct cultures among groups that are passed down from generation to generation. Jesse James, the famous 19th century outlaw, once gave a widow who hosted him enough money to pay her debt and then robbed the collector as the man left the widow's house. Stories like this contributed to his image as a generous bandit, although in reality, his crimes were violent and complex, far from a simple heroic figure. If you are taller than 6 feet 2 inches, you cannot be an astronaut. This limit has existed in certain space programs due to space constraints in spacecraft, although requirements may vary depending on the agency and available technology. For example, in some modern missions, height ranges are more flexible, but still adapted to the design of cabins and spacesuits. In the early 2010s in China, a golden-haired Tibetan Mastiff puppy was sold for around 12 million yuan, equivalent to about $2 million at the time, making it one of the most expensive dogs ever sold. Cherophobia is the fear of being happy or joyful, with the expectation that something bad will happen. It is not considered a widely recognized formal disorder, but it is often associated with anticipatory anxiety or cultural beliefs where happiness is perceived as temporary or risky, which can lead to avoiding positive experiences or moments of enjoyment out of fear of negative consequences afterward. The average annual salary of a professional NBA cheerleader is $56,000. However, this figure can vary significantly depending on the team, experience, and additional income from events, appearances, and sponsorships. In many cases, the base salary is considerably lower, so many cheerleaders supplement their income with other jobs or activities. Coca-Cola was invented by an American pharmacist named John Pemberton, who advertised it as a nerve tonic that could cure headaches and fatigue. In its early days, it contained extracts from coca leaves and cola nut, and it was sold in pharmacies before becoming a globally popular beverage. This is the original Ronald McDonald from 1963, which looks like something out of a nightmare. The character was portrayed by Willard Scott in his early television appearances, with a much stranger design than today, including a tray as a hat and a less refined aesthetic that was later improved to make him more appealing to children. Johnny Depp has a passion for playing the guitar. In fact, he has played with artists such as Marilyn Manson, Oasis, Aerosmith, and Eddie Vedder. He has also been part of the band Hollywood Vampires, where he has shared the stage with well-known musicians in live performances. Former billionaire Chuck Feeney has donated more than 99% of his $6,300,000,000 to help disadvantaged children attend college. He now only owns $2 million. Humans have fewer chromosomes than a potato. While humans have 46 chromosomes, some varieties of potatoes can have up to 48, showing that a greater number of chromosomes does not necessarily imply greater biological complexity, since their function and organization are far more important than the total number. In 1961, Mel Blanc, the voice of Bugs Bunny, suffered a serious car accident that left him in a coma from which he could not wake. Doctors began speaking directly to the characters he voiced, and he actually responded using their voices, and 3 weeks later, he finally woke up. The iTunes user agreement explicitly states that you are not allowed to use the program to manufacture nuclear, chemical, or biological weapons. This clause is a standard legal measure that limits the use of software in dangerous or illegal activities, although in practice, it is more preventive than enforceable. In 2013, the Netherlands closed 8 prisons due to a lack of criminals. This has been attributed to relatively low crime rates, justice policies focused more on rehabilitation, and the use of alternative sentencing. In some cases, the country even rented out prison space to other nations to make use of the available facilities. In the movie Terminator 2, Arnold Schwarzenegger was paid $15 million and only spoke 700 words of dialogue. If you break that cost down per word, it means his famous line, "Hasta la vista, baby," cost $85,714. This calculation became popular as an example of the value of movie stars in Hollywood and the cultural impact of iconic lines in cinema. Bruce Lee could perform push-ups using only one hand, with just his index finger and thumb. He was also known for his famous 1-inch punch, with which he could knock down an opponent from a distance of just 1 inch. This scan of the official Nintendo character guide published in 1993 reveals that Yoshi's real name is T. Yoshi Saw Munchakoopas. This detail appears in old and obscure materials from the franchise, although it is rarely mentioned in modern games, making it a little-known fact among fans. The smell that lingers after it rains is called petrichor. This scent is produced when compounds released by plants and soil bacteria, especially a substance called geosmin, mix with moisture in the air. When rain falls, the droplets release these particles, creating that fresh and distinctive aroma that many people find pleasant. Blue eyes originated between 6,000 and 10,000 years ago as a result of a genetic mutation called OCA2. Before this, everyone had brown eyes, and all individuals with blue eyes today share a common ancestor related to that mutation. This variation affects the production of melanin in the iris, reducing its amount and allowing light to scatter differently, creating the characteristic blue color. There are several hundred people currently cryogenically preserved in the hope that one day technology will be developed to revive them, and several thousand more are registered to do so after death. This process involves preserving the body at extremely low temperatures immediately after death, with the idea of preventing cellular deterioration, although there is currently no scientific evidence that revival is possible. At the Curve Gallery in the Barbican Centre in London, there is something called the Rain Room, where, through the use of sensors, rain falls everywhere in the room except where you are walking. The installation uses cameras and tracking technology to detect movement in real time, creating the illusion of controlling the rain. The United States budget for nuclear weapons is not included in Department of Defense spending, but instead falls under the Department of Energy. This is because the development, maintenance, and security of the nuclear arsenal are handled by the National Nuclear Security Administration, an agency within that department, while the Department of Defense is responsible for its deployment and strategic use. Lobsters and jellyfish are biologically immortal and can live forever. In reality, some species, such as the jellyfish Turritopsis dohrnii, can reverse their life cycle under certain conditions, and lobsters show very slow aging. But both can die from disease, predators, or environmental changes. This unusual-looking fish is called a crown betta dragonfish. It is a variety of betta fish known for its crown-shaped fins, which have extended rays and pointed tips that give it its unique appearance. In addition to its white color with dragon-like scales, these fish are territorial and require proper space, as males can become aggressive with each other. Rowan Atkinson, the actor who played Mr. Bean, once saved a plane from crashing after the pilot fainted, despite never having flown a plane before. According to accounts, he managed to maintain control momentarily until the pilot regained consciousness, preventing a possible tragedy. Although the actor himself has mentioned that the situation was brief and under indirect supervision. To save time for workers during the construction of the new World Trade Center building, a mobile subway restaurant was installed for their lunches, which moved up the building as each new floor was completed. This solution made it easier to access food without having to descend great heights, improving efficiency on the site. A group of owls is called a parliament, a group of crows is called a murder, and a group of turkeys is called a rafter. These collective names mostly come from English and literary traditions that became popular in the Middle Ages, where creative, humorous, or symbolic terms were assigned to groups of animals. Many of these names were compiled in texts such as the Book of St. Albans from 1486, which helped standardize this type of expression. In Denmark, fart control means speed control. The word may sound funny to English speakers, but in Danish, fart simply means speed and is used in everyday contexts such as road signs. That is why radar systems and traffic controls often include this word, forming phrases like automatisk fartkontrol to indicate automated monitoring systems. According to a study conducted by Macquarie University, playing video games before going to sleep gives a person the ability to control their dreams. It also suggests that gamers are more likely to have lucid dreams compared to those who do not play. In 2008, clothing company The North Face sued a clothing company called the South Butt. The brand directly parodied the logo and style of The North Face, which led to a trademark infringement lawsuit. The case ended with a settlement in which the parody company had to change its image and limit the use of its name. The Pallas's cat is the oldest living species of modern cat, which first appeared 12 million years ago. This small feline inhabits cold regions of Central Asia and stands out for its dense fur and flat face, adaptations that allow it to survive in extreme climates and rocky terrain. It is also known for its solitary behavior and its ability to camouflage in its environment. The human brain has a negativity bias, which makes us constantly seek out bad news. It is an evolutionary trait that emerged in early humans as a survival mechanism. Paying more attention to potential dangers increased the chances of survival, so the brain prioritizes negative information and remembers it more strongly than positive information. Marvel Comics once created a superhero called Throg, which is a frog that has the power of Thor and is part of a group called the Pet Avengers. The character originated as an alternative and humorous version within the Marvel Universe, but it gained popularity among fans. In 2012, Russian scientists regenerated an Arctic flower known as Selene stenophila that had been extinct for more than 32,000 years from a seed that had been buried by an Ice Age squirrel. The tissue was extracted from permafrost and grown in a laboratory, successfully producing a viable plant. The famous painter Salvador Dali avoided paying restaurant bills by drawing on the back of his checks. He knew that the owner would not want to cash the checks, since the drawings would be much more valuable. This strategy also reinforced his eccentric image and contributed to increasing the artistic value of anything he touched. In addition, he turned everyday moments into part of his own artistic performance. Technically, we all live about 80 milliseconds in the past, because that is how long it takes our brain to process information. This slight delay occurs because the brain needs to integrate visual, auditory, and sensory signals before constructing a coherent perception of the present. Even so, the brain compensates for this delay by predicting what will happen, allowing us to react almost in real time without noticing the difference. In Switzerland, if you fail your driving test 3 times, you are required to consult an official psychologist to evaluate the reasons for your previous failures before you are allowed to take the test again. This process aims to determine whether there are behavioral or stress-related factors affecting driving. A single sperm cell contains 37.5 megabytes of DNA information. One ejaculation represents the transfer equivalent of 15,875 gigabytes of data. This comparison is only an analogy to illustrate the amount of genetic information, as DNA does not function like traditional digital data and cannot be directly measured that way in practical terms. Mount Everest is home to the remains of more than 200 people who have lost their lives during expeditions, and in some cases, these remain on the mountain and serve as visible landmarks for climbers on their way to the summit. The extreme conditions make it difficult to recover the bodies, which explains why they remain there. In 1993, Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's, returned to high school to earn his GED decades after dropping out, because he was concerned that children might see his success as an excuse to quit school as well. The inventor of the Rubik's Cube, Erno Rubik, took an entire month to solve it before presenting it to the world. This was because he initially did not know if the puzzle had a solution, which made his own invention a challenge even for him. The killing season, as it is known in the United Kingdom, or the July effect, as it is known in the United States, is used to describe the period around July and August when newly graduated doctors begin their residencies. In 1945, a man named Tsutomu Yamaguchi survived the atomic explosion in Hiroshima, only to take the morning train and arrive at his job on time in Nagasaki, where he survived another atomic explosion. He is officially recognized as a survivor of both events, something extremely rare in history. FutureMe.org is a website where you can send emails to yourself at any point in the future. The platform allows users to schedule messages to be delivered years later, making it a popular tool for reflection, setting personal goals, or simply leaving reminders for the future. Sea otters hold hands while they sleep so they do not drift away from each other. They also often wrap their bodies in seaweed as natural anchors, which allows them to stay together in groups and avoid separating while resting in open waters. This behavior also helps strengthen social bonds within their groups. A 20-ounce bottle of Mountain Dew contains the equivalent of about 22 packets of sugar. This is due to its high content of added sugars, which easily exceeds the recommended daily amount for an adult in a single drink. A typical sugar packet contains about 4 grams, helping to better visualize the total amount consumed. Crocodiles cannot stick out their tongues and cannot chew. Instead of chewing, they tear their food and swallow it in large chunks, and their tongue is attached to the roof of their mouth by a membrane that prevents it from moving freely, which also helps keep water from entering their throat when they are submerged. When the elephant whisperer Lawrence Anthony died in March 2012, an entire herd of elephants came to his house to mourn him. According to his family, the animals walked long distances and remained near the home for hours, a behavior that many interpreted as a display of memory and emotional connection. Between 1997 and 1998, there was a popular Russian game show called Intercept, where contestants stole a car, and if they were not caught by the police within 35 minutes, they won the car. Otherwise, they were arrested. Animal Planet aired a fake documentary about the existence of mermaids that convinced thousands of viewers twice, once in 2012 and again in 2013. The program was presented in a scientific style, which led many people to believe it was real, generating debate and criticism for not clearly stating from the beginning that it was fiction. The largest treehouse in the world is located in Tennessee and has 10 floors and 10,000 square feet. It took 11 years to build, but only cost $12,000 due to the use of mostly recycled materials. It was built by a local preacher as a personal project and became a very popular tourist attraction. For years, visitors from all over the world came to see it, until it was closed for safety reasons. Falling in love produces a similar high to consuming substances. This is due to the release of dopamine in the brain, associated with pleasure, motivation, and reward. Although, in the case of love, hormones such as oxytocin and serotonin also play a role in attachment and mood. In 2006, artist Kim Graham and a group of 25 volunteers spent 15 days using completely non-toxic recycled paper products to create a 12-foot-tall papier-mâché tree sculpture. Bruce Lee was so fast that he could snatch a dime from an open palm and replace it with a penny, all before the person could close their fist. This is the Skywalk on Tiananmen Mountain in China. It is a glass bridge 200 feet long and 1 inch thick that is so high it allows visitors to look down at the smaller mountain peaks below. The word verb is actually a noun. It is used to name a grammatical category, which shows how language can refer to itself using its own structures, something known as metalanguage, where words describe other words within the same linguistic system. In 2004, Volvo introduced a concept car called YCC that was built specifically for women, without a hood and with dent-resistant bumpers. The design was developed by an all-female team and included features such as easy maintenance, improved ergonomics, and practical storage, although it never reached commercial production. Citizens of Norway pay half their taxes in November so that everyone can have more money for Christmas. This is due to an adjustment in the annual withholding system, since during the rest of the year, people pay slightly more than necessary, allowing this temporary tax relief during the holiday season. The United States could cut its military budget by 80% and still have the largest military budget in the world. This reflects the enormous gap between its defense spending and that of other countries, although the comparison depends on the year and how the data is measured, as global spending constantly changes. In 2013, Scottish scientists created a pizza that contains 30% of the recommended daily nutrients. It can be eaten for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Thanks, Scottish scientists. Ryan Gosling was cast for the role of Noah in the movie The Notebook because the director wanted someone who was not handsome. According to the director himself, he was looking for a more ordinary face to make the character more relatable and believable within the story. In the city of Mackinac Island, Michigan, all motor vehicles, including cars, have been banned since 1898. The ban was established to maintain tranquility and prevent vehicles from frightening horses, which remain the main means of transportation along with bicycles and carriages, giving the island a unique and almost unchanged atmosphere over time. The descendants of two pairs of identical twins are legally cousins, but genetically siblings. This happens because the parents share the same DNA with each other, which makes their children genetically closer than usual. In 2011, archaeologists at the site of the September 11th terrorist attack in New York City discovered half of an 18th century ship that is believed to have once been used by merchants. Jim Cummings, the voice of Winnie the Pooh, calls children in hospitals and speaks to them using the character's voice to make them feel better. On many occasions, he does this voluntarily, even without prior notice, and adapts the character's tone to deliver personalized messages of encouragement that create very meaningful moments for patients and their families. He has also mentioned that he considers these calls one of the most important parts of his work. In Australia, there are trees that grow several different types of fruit, known as fruit salad trees. These are not natural species, but trees created through grafting, a technique where branches from different varieties are combined into a single trunk. This allows fruits like peaches, plums, and nectarines to grow on the same tree, something common in experimental horticulture. To drink, giraffes have to spread their legs, which are nearly 6 feet long, just to get close enough to the water. This position makes them vulnerable to predators, so they usually do it carefully and in groups to stay alert. And they can also go long periods without drinking by getting much of their water from the plants they eat. This is Emmanuel Joseph Bishop. He is 15 years old and has Down syndrome, but he can speak English, Spanish, French, and Latin fluently, can play the violin, and has set 6 junior world records for people with Down syndrome. In the summer of 1932, while sitting in a restaurant, Adolf Hitler designed the prototype of what would become the first Volkswagen Beetle. The idea was part of a project to create an affordable car for the general public, known as the People's Car. In real life, Russi Taylor, the voice of Minnie Mouse, was married to Wayne Alwyn, the voice of Mickey Mouse. Both worked for years bringing these characters to life, and their relationship was seen as a curious coincidence that delighted fans. It was even said that the magic of their voices reflected their relationship outside the studio. The letter U was first used as a substitute for the word you by William Shakespeare in his comedy Love's Labour's Lost, around 1595. This type of abbreviation reflects how language has always evolved, even centuries before modern text messaging. Created in Germany, Eslac is the world's first edible spray paint and comes in colors such as gold, silver, red, and blue. Come on, you know you've always wanted to eat a golden chicken. It is made with food-safe ingredients and is mainly used in creative gastronomy to decorate food with striking finishes. The iPhone 5S with 64 gigabytes had an estimated manufacturing cost of around $218, according to industry analyses at the time. However, its retail price was up to $849 without a contract, reflecting margins that also include research, marketing, and distribution. In addition, the final price considers software development and ecosystem. In 2005, 110 people tied for second place in the Powerball lottery. Officials suspected foul play, but discovered that all winners had used the same lucky numbers from copies of the same fortune cookie message. Atelophobia is the fear of not being good enough or of having imperfections. It is often related to extreme perfectionism and fear of failure, affecting self-esteem and leading to avoidance of situations where a person feels they may be judged. Bangkok University in Thailand requires its students to wear anti-cheating helmets during exams. This measure was implemented on one occasion as an experiment to prevent the use of hidden electronic devices, and it quickly gained international attention due to its unusual approach to preventing cheating. Vatican City is home to the only ATM in the world that gives instructions in Latin. This machine was installed by the Vatican Bank and reflects the continued use of Latin as the official language of the Holy See. Although it also offers options in other modern languages, Latin remains a unique curiosity that attracts visitors and scholars. The dot over a lowercase I or j is called a tittle. This term comes from the Latin word titulus and is used in typography to describe that small dot that helps differentiate these letters and improve readability in writing. In France, a bakery is legally required to make all the bread it sells from scratch in order to be called a bakery. This regulation protects traditional craftsmanship and ensures that products like baguettes are made on site, preventing the use of frozen dough. Businesses that do not comply must use other terms, helping consumers distinguish quality. At the end of the 1990s, BMW had to withdraw its satellite navigation systems because male German drivers did not want to receive instructions from a female voice. The company responded by offering alternative voice options, showing how cultural factors can influence technology design. Country singer Dolly Parton once anonymously entered a Dolly Parton lookalike contest and lost to a drag queen. She shared the story in interviews, noting that she exaggerated her own appearance to go unnoticed, which made her version less convincing than the other contestants. November 19th is officially Have a Bad Day Day. These types of celebrations are part of so-called unofficial days, created with a humorous tone to recognize everyday emotions and remind people that everyone can have difficult days without it being unusual. It is often shared on social media as a form of collective release. Zach Galifianakis received an offer from Nike to appear in their advertising after the success of The Hangover. During the phone call, he broke the ice by asking, "So, do you still have 7-year-old kids making your products?" And that was the end of that conversation. There is a Canadian toy company called Child's Own Studio that turns children's drawings into stuffed animals. Each piece is unique and handmade, staying as faithful as possible to the original drawing, which makes it a very special keepsake. Queen Elizabeth II served as a mechanic and driver during World War II. During the conflict, she joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service, where she received training in driving and repairing military vehicles, becoming the only British monarch to have actively served in the armed forces. Volkswagen owns Audi, Bentley, Bugatti, Lamborghini, Porsche, and Ducati. Through the Volkswagen Group, the company has acquired several brands over the years, forming one of the largest automotive conglomerates in the world. This group includes everything from luxury vehicles to motorcycles and high-performance sports cars. There is a small town in Oklahoma called OK, which appears as OK OK on maps. This curious name comes from an abbreviation officially adopted by the community, which causes it to repeat when shown alongside the state. Although it is a very small place, it has become popular for this peculiar linguistic coincidence that often draws attention on signs and navigation systems. At the Crocodile Cove Aquarium in Australia, there is a popular tourist attraction called the Cage of Death that allows you to get up close to giant crocodiles. Visitors enter a transparent capsule that is lowered into the water, offering an intense but safe experience with these predators. This is a single photograph taken by photographer Bella Borsotti as an album cover for the group VLP. If it is hard to grasp, here it is from a different angle. Photography magic. The image uses a carefully constructed composition with real objects and forced perspective, creating a visual illusion that seems impossible at first glance, but is revealed when viewed from another angle. Falling coconuts kill 15 times more people than shark attacks each year. Although this figure is often cited, it is difficult to verify precisely, but it is known that coconut-related accidents do occur and can be dangerous in areas where palm trees are abundant. A mature coconut can weigh several pounds and fall from great height with enough force to cause serious injury. In 1971, a man named Jean-Claude Ramond claimed to have passed major medical exams and built a life based on that story, convincing those around him for years that he was a real doctor. Over time, the situation became unsustainable, and the case ended tragically, becoming one of the most shocking deceptions ever documented. Monowi, Nebraska is the smallest incorporated municipality in the United States, with a population of only one. Its sole resident, Elsie Eiler, is both the town's mayor and librarian. She manages basic services herself, pays local taxes, and keeps the community alive. In Seoul, South Korea, there is a place called Doglo Cat Cafe, where you can drink coffee and spend time with cats for hours. This type of cafe is very popular in several cities across Asia, offering a relaxing space where people can interact with animals, especially those who cannot have pets at home. In 1967, an orangutan named Fu Manchu repeatedly escaped from his enclosure at the Henry Dorley Zoo in Nebraska using a key he made from a piece of wire. The reason he kept escaping was because every time zookeepers inspected him, he hid the key in his mouth. The most successful interrogator of World War II was named Hans Scharf. Instead of using torture on prisoners, he was kind to them to gain their trust by taking them to a movie theater in the camp, or sharing tea or coffee with them. This is Larry Tesler. He invented the copy and paste function on computers in 1973. He worked at Xerox PARC, where he helped develop more intuitive interfaces, including the use of modeless editing. His work directly influenced modern systems and how we interact with computers today. Snoop Dogg released a smokable book called Rolling Words that has pages filled with lyrics from his own songs that you can tear out and use as rolling paper. It was a limited promotional edition created with chemical-free hemp paper, intended more as a collector's item than for daily use, and it reflected his public image linked to cannabis culture. When Jackie Chan was 18 years old, he got into a street fight with motorcyclists where, shortly after, he noticed a piece of bone sticking out of his knuckle. He spent an entire day trying to push it back in until he realized it was not his bone, it was the other guy's tooth. Volvo invented the three-point seatbelt, but released the patent for any car manufacturer to use because they believed it had more value as a life-saving tool than as something to profit from, which allowed its global adoption and has helped save millions of lives since then. The current United States flag was designed by a 17-year-old student named Robert Heft as a high school class project, for which he received a grade of 4 out of 5. Later, his design was officially selected after the admission of new states, and his grade was corrected. This is Miss America 1924, Ruth Malcolmson. How times have changed. Her crowning reflects the beauty standards of the time, very different from today, and is part of the historical evolution of pageants, which over the years have incorporated new criteria beyond physical appearance. If you take any number and double it, add 6, divide it by 2, and subtract the number you started with, your answer will always be 3. This is because the algebraic process cancels out the original number, leaving only the constant result, making this trick a simple example of how basic mathematical operations work. There is an alarm clock called Clocky that has wheels and runs away and hides if you do not get out of bed on time. It was designed to force people to physically get up to turn it off, helping to fight the habit of repeatedly snoozing the alarm. And it can jump off the nightstand and roll around the room until it finds a hiding spot. This photograph of brothers Michael and Sean McQuilkin was taken in Sequoia National Park in 1975 by their sister Mary, just moments before lightning struck them, and, surprisingly, they all survived. The pygmy marmoset is the smallest monkey in the world, with an average length of only 5.30 inches and an average weight of only 3.5 ounces. It lives in the Amazon basin and feeds mainly on tree sap, which it obtains by making small holes in the bark with its teeth. Albert Einstein never wore socks. He mentioned it himself in letters and interviews, explaining that he avoided them because they would always tear at the big toe. Even at formal events, he preferred to wear shoes without socks, which became one of his most well-known eccentricities, along with his unkempt personal style. You can make your own Gatorade at home simply by adding salt to some Kool-Aid. It is not the exact recipe, but it has the same amount of electrolytes. However, commercial versions also include sugars and minerals in specific proportions to optimize hydration during exercise. In 1886, a man named H. Holmes built a 3-story hotel in Chicago with an unusual design full of confusing hallways and unconventional rooms. Over time, the place became famous for the dark stories associated with its owner, becoming one of the most disturbing and talked about cases of the era. Pasado mañana is a word that means the day after tomorrow. It is one of the few words in Spanish that expresses a specific time concept in a single word, something that in other languages usually requires more than one. In 2010, the Technical University of Munich built 4-story slides to help students get to class faster, instead of using the stairs. These slides were installed as part of a creative campus project, and were also intended to promote a more dynamic and fun environment, although their use did not completely replace traditional stairways. All presidents of the United States pay for their own food and incidental expenses while staying in the White House, including dry cleaning, toothpaste, and other personal care items. Although lodging and security are covered, personal expenses are recorded and billed monthly. There is a movie from 2010 called Rubber, about a killer car tire named Robert that rolls around killing people and blowing things up. The film is known for its surreal style and unconventional narrative, becoming a cult classic within independent cinema, as well as breaking the fourth wall and playing with the idea that not everything needs a logical reason. There are now digital pens that digitally record everything you write, draw, or sketch on any surface, and then convert the notes into text on any computer. These devices use motion sensors, tiny cameras, or special surfaces to capture strokes in real time. Then, through handwriting recognition software, they can digitize and organize the content, making it easier to store, edit, and search. Internet addiction disorder, also known as IAD, is a real mental disorder in which someone engages in addictive, compulsive, or pathological internet use. Although it is not officially recognized in all diagnostic manuals, it is widely studied and can affect social, work, and emotional life. Under extremely high pressure, peanut butter can be turned into diamonds. This is because it contains carbon, the same elements found in diamonds, and under laboratory conditions, it has been demonstrated that carbon-rich materials can transform under intense pressures and temperatures similar to those found inside the Earth. Some Japanese companies, such as Sony, Toshiba, and Panasonic, have banishment rooms, where they transfer surplus employees and assign them useless tasks or even nothing to do until they become discouraged or depressed enough to resign on their own, thus avoiding paying full benefits. Cameron Diaz and Snoop Dogg attended high school together. In fact, she has mentioned in interviews that they went to the same school in California, which shows how unexpected some connections between celebrities can be before they become famous. There are shoes inspired by the Wizard of Oz that guide you home when you click your heels, using a global positioning system. These experimental prototypes incorporate vibrations or directional signals that indicate the correct path, combining wearable technology with creative design inspired by Dorothy's iconic shoes. In 2013, a homeless man named Billy Ray Harris returned an engagement ring to a woman who accidentally dropped it into his change cup. The owner of the ring, Sarah Darling, was so grateful that she and her fiancé created a fundraising page and collected $187,000 in public donations, allowing Billy to get a home and a job. Cows have best friends and can become stressed when separated from them. Studies have shown that they form stable social bonds within the herd and that their heart rate can increase when they are separated from their close companions, indicating a more complex level of attachment than previously thought. Bedbugs survive longer in beds that are neatly made, so scientists suggest leaving your bed messy from time to time, as it ends up being healthier for you. The largest cave in the world is Son Doong Cave in Vietnam. It is just under 5.6 miles long, and its interior is so large that it has its own clouds and jungles. In fact, its ceiling is so high that you could fit an entire 40-story skyscraper inside, and its isolated ecosystem hosts unique species that do not exist anywhere else on the planet. In 1967, a magazine called Berkeley Barb published a satirical story about the supposed extraction of substances from bananas, intending to question drug laws and perceptions. However, some people took the idea seriously and began experimenting with banana peels. The longest-lived person in the world whose age has been verified was the Japanese woman Misao Okawa, who lived 117 years. She passed away in 2015. But the current record is held by the French woman Jeanne Calment, who reached 122 years, a number that has not been surpassed in a documented way to this day. Being hungry causes serotonin levels to drop, which leads to a whirlwind of uncontrollable emotions, including anxiety, stress, and anger, or, as I like to call it, irritable hunger. This phenomenon is also related to low blood glucose levels, which affects the brain's ability to regulate emotions. That is why, when a person has not eaten, they may react more impulsively or exaggeratedly to everyday situations. There are at least 3 books in the Harvard University Library that, according to historical records, were bound using unusual materials, a practice that in past centuries was not completely uncommon in certain medical and scientific contexts. In the 1980s, the notorious drug lord Pablo Escobar earned so much money with his cartel that he spent $2,500, or $7,200 in today's money, every month just on rubber bands to hold all the cash. In 2005, there was a pilot reality TV show in Germany called Sperm Race, where 12 contestants donated their sperm to a lab where doctors observed their samples racing toward an egg. The winner of the sperm race received a Porsche. The animal in the Firefox logo is not a fox. It is actually an animal known as a red panda, a species that is closer to the raccoon family. The name Firefox is a common nickname in English for this animal, which inspired both the name and the image of the browser. Spanish fashion designer Manel Torres invented the world's first spray-on clothing, which can be worn, washed, and reused. This material, known as fabrican, is sprayed directly onto the body or molds and dries in seconds to form a flexible garment. The technology has been explored in medicine and industrial design, as it can also be used for bandages or temporary coatings. The Lego Bridge is a concrete bridge in Germany that has become famous for being painted to look like a giant bridge made of Lego bricks. This design is an optical illusion created by urban artists that transforms a common structure into a very popular visual attraction. Justin Timberlake's mother was the legal guardian of Ryan Gosling when he was a child. This happened during the time when both were part of the show The Mickey Mouse Club, when Gosling temporarily moved in to continue his television career, since his family remained in Canada while he worked in the United States. In the early 1990s, Michael Jackson attempted to buy Marvel Comics so he could play Spider-Man in his own self-produced movie. Although the idea never materialized, Stan Lee himself mentioned that Jackson showed real interest in the project, reflecting how ambitious he was in his ventures beyond music. Although it may sound counterintuitive, hot water can freeze faster than cold water. This is known as the Mpemba effect and is still studied today as it depends on multiple factors such as evaporation, ambient temperature, and container conditions. It does not always happen, but under certain circumstances, it can be clearly observed in controlled experiments. In 2012, a 63-year-old man named Wallace Weatherholt from Florida had his hand bitten off by an alligator and was charged with illegally feeding an animal. The incident occurred in a natural park where interacting with wildlife was prohibited. After the attack, the alligator was captured and euthanized, as is commonly done in such cases for public safety. Percussive maintenance is the technical term for hitting something until it works. It is used somewhat humorously in technical contexts to describe when a strike temporarily fixes a mechanical or electronic issue, such as in older equipment with loose parts or faulty connections, where vibration can restore contact. Macklemore once worked at a juvenile detention center to help detainees express themselves by writing and creating rap lyrics. This experience influenced his later music, especially on topics related to personal growth and social struggles. Japanese tourists visiting Paris sometimes have to be sent back to Japan because they suffer an extreme shock known as Paris syndrome, due to being unprepared for the reality that Paris is not as grand as they expected. There is a phobia called the Jonah complex, which causes a person to fear their own success, preventing them from reaching their full potential. This concept comes from humanistic psychology and describes a form of self-sabotage related to fear of change or taking on great responsibilities. Jackie Chan's son will receive nothing from his $130 million fortune, as he was quoted saying that if he is capable, he can make his own money, and if not, he will only waste mine. Chan has reiterated this stance in several interviews, emphasizing that he prefers to donate his wealth to charitable causes and encourage self-sufficiency rather than automatic inheritance. There is an Australian sculptor named Sam Jinks who creates hyper-realistic sculptures made entirely of wax, fiberglass, silicone, and real human hair. His works are so detailed that they are often unsettling, as they capture skin textures, wrinkles, and expressions with almost photographic precision, and they can take months to complete due to the meticulous manual work each piece requires. Scientists at the ATR Computational Neuroscience Laboratories in Kyoto, Japan, have successfully developed a technology that can display thoughts on a computer screen. In reality, the system uses brain scanners to interpret activity patterns and reconstruct approximate images of what a person is seeing or imagining, although it is still limited and cannot read complex thoughts, such as words or complete ideas. The novel Twilight was rejected 14 times before finally being published. After its release, it became a global phenomenon with millions of copies sold and film adaptations that further expanded its popularity. In the original version of The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen, Ariel does not marry the prince. In fact, he marries someone else and she dies. In the story published in 1837, the protagonist suffers a much more tragic fate as she dissolves into sea foam, although a form of spiritual redemption is also suggested as she becomes a daughter of the air. There is a cruise ship called The World, where residents live permanently while it travels around the globe. Buying an apartment on board will cost you $2 million, in addition to up to $270,000 per year in maintenance costs. The ship functions as a private community with full services, including restaurants, shops, and cultural activities. Dalhousie University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, opened a puppy room where students can go play with dogs to relieve stress. This type of initiative is part of student wellness programs aimed at reducing anxiety and improving mood, especially during exam periods, as contact with animals has been shown to have positive effects on emotional health. The pinky promise originated in Japan, where it indicated that if someone broke a promise, they had to cut off their little finger. Over time, this practice became a symbolic gesture among children and adults, maintaining the idea of commitment without the literal punishment. In Japanese culture, the little finger is associated with loyalty, which reinforces the emotional value of this gesture. In 2010, Johnny Depp responded to a letter from a 9-year-old girl named Beatrice DeLapp by actually showing up at her school dressed as Captain Jack Sparrow, after she wrote asking pirates to help her organize a mutiny against her teachers. 63-year-old former math teacher Joan Ginther, who has a doctorate in statistics from Stanford University, has won scratch-off lottery prizes 4 separate times for a total of $20.4 million. She has never revealed how she did it, but the odds of achieving what she did are 1 in 18 septillion. A googol is actually a mathematical term for a very large number equal to 1 followed by 100 zeros. The name was proposed by the nephew of a mathematician in the 20th century and later inspired the name of the company Google. It was coined by mathematician Edward Kasner to help explain concepts of extremely large numbers in a simple way. Cheetahs, tigers, jaguars, and other wild cats are attracted to obsession by Calvin Klein, so never wear it if you ever go on safari. This is due to certain aromatic compounds like civitone, which mimic scents found in their natural environment. Researchers have used it in camera traps to attract felines and study them more easily in the wild. In China, wealthy and powerful people who break the law often hire body doubles to serve their prison time. Although it is a highly debated practice and difficult to verify broadly, it has been reported in isolated cases and reflects concerns about corruption and inequality in the judicial system. Carmen del Orefice is considered the oldest working model in the world. She began modeling at the age of 15 and remains active today at over 90 years old, staying relevant in the fashion industry. She has appeared in campaigns, runways, and magazines, challenging traditional age standards in modeling. In some cities in the United States, such as Rialto in California, police officers are required to wear cameras to document their interactions with civilians. In those cities, public complaints against officers dropped by 88%. In older versions of Little Red Riding Hood, the story was much darker than the one we know today. In some traditional tales, the protagonist is involved in disturbing situations related to the wolf and her grandmother, reflecting the style of folklore at the time, which tended to be more raw before being adapted for children. In 2011, Barack Obama became the first president to brew beer at the White House. In fact, the beer itself is called White House Honey Ale and was made using honey from beehives installed on the grounds of the presidential residence. There is a lake in the United States called Chargagagagman Chagagag Chabunagungamog, which is often cited as the longest place name in the United States. Try saying that 3 times fast. The name comes from an indigenous language and, according to some popular interpretations, describes a humorous idea related to fishing in the area. The word Sahara is an Arabic word that literally means Great Desert. So people who say Sahara Desert are actually saying the desert of the Great Desert. This type of linguistic repetition is common in many geographic names adopted by other languages, a phenomenon known as toponymic redundancy, also present in cases like Mississippi River or Lake Chad. Between 90 and 95% of mobile phone sales in Japan are waterproof devices, because the Japanese love their phones so much that they even use them in the shower. This trend became common during the era of Keitai, when Japanese manufacturers began including water resistance as a standard feature due to local habits, such as using phones in bathrooms or humid environments, which later influenced global smartphone design. The term checkmate comes from the Arabic shamat, meaning the king is dead. More specifically, it derives from the expression shah mat, which is interpreted as the king is helpless or defeated, reflecting the end of the game in chess. This term reached Europe through Persian and was adapted into different languages, preserving its original meaning linked to the final defeat of the monarch. Henry Ford was the first industrial giant to give his workers both Saturday and Sunday off, hoping it would encourage greater recreational use of automobiles, thus popularizing the concept of the weekend. Candles will last almost twice as long if they are placed in a freezer one day before being used. The cold hardens the wax and can make it melt more slowly when lit, although the effect is not as dramatic as often claimed. Factors such as wax quality, wick size, and avoiding drafts have a much greater impact on their duration. In real life, a roadrunner can only reach speeds of around 20 miles per hour, while a coyote can reach speeds of up to 43 miles per hour. Despite this difference, the roadrunner makes up for it with great agility, quick changes of direction, and reflexes that help it escape predators. In 1939, the New York Times predicted that television would fail because the average American family would not have enough time to sit and watch it. This opinion reflected early skepticism toward new technologies, as radio dominated home entertainment at the time. Over time, television not only succeeded, but completely transformed culture, information, and leisure worldwide. To this day, Japan and Russia have not signed a formal peace treaty to officially end hostilities from World War II. This is mainly due to a territorial dispute over the Southern Kuril Islands, known in Japan as the Northern Territories, a disagreement that has persisted for decades. May 4th is the annual Star Wars Day, an unofficial holiday celebrated by Star Wars fans. The date became popular due to the English pun, "May the 4th be with you," which sounds similar to the saga's famous phrase, and each year it is celebrated with events, marathons, and special content. The following day, some fans also informally celebrate Revenge of the Fifth with a theme more focused on villains. For several years, the App Store allowed a maximum price of $999.99 per application, and some developers even released apps at that price, often as a marketing strategy or to offer very exclusive services. In most cases, they were not aiming for mass sales, but rather to generate attention or position themselves as premium products. A couple from California named Helen and Les Brown were born on December 31st, 1918, were married for 75 years, and then died one day apart at the age of 94 in 2013. Voldemort in French literally translates as flight of death. The name combines words that evoke death and escape or evasion, which fits the character and his obsession with avoiding death at all costs. In addition, the author chose a name with an elegant and dark sound, influenced by the French language, to convey mystery, power, and an almost immortal feeling to those who hear it. The Zombie Research Society, or ZRS, has declared the month of May as Zombie Awareness Month in the United States, with a goal of raising awareness about zombies and the possibility of a future zombie apocalypse. One of the oldest living creatures on Earth was a giant tortoise named Adwaita from India, which is believed to have been 255 years old before finally dying in 2006. It lived in a zoo in Calcutta, and although its exact age is debated, it was considered a symbol of exceptional longevity, as its story is based on historical records and accounts that even link it to the British colonial era. Honey badgers are known to eat porcupines and venomous snakes, raid beehives for honey, abduct cheetah cubs, and steal food from hungry lions because, as everyone knows, the honey badger does not care. We know more about what exists on the surface of the moon than what exists in Earth's oceans. Although much of the ocean floor remains unexplored in detail, this statement is often exaggerated, since we do have fairly complete maps of ocean topography, though not of all its biodiversity, especially in deep areas where extreme pressure and darkness make direct research difficult. In the 1980s, a man known only as George, who suffered from severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, experienced a head injury that affected the area of the brain related to his condition. Surprisingly, his behavior changed over time, and years later, he managed to excel as a university student. This is the largest and longest 3D street art in the world, created by 3D Joe and Max in London. It took 10 days to complete and measures 349 feet long. There is a micronation located in the state of Nevada called Malosia, which was founded by a man named Kevin Baugh and consists entirely of his house, front yard, and backyard. Prisons in Brazil offer inmates the opportunity to reduce their sentences by 4 days, up to 48 days per year, for each book they read and write a report about. There is a large town on an island in Wales called Llanfair Pwllgwyngyr Gogerechwyn Drobuch Llantysilio Gogogoch. Its name was lengthened in the 19th century as a publicity strategy to attract visitors, and it describes in Welsh the location of a church near a whirlpool and a white tree. In the ancient Persian Empire, men would debate ideas twice, once sober and once drunk, as they believed an idea had to sound good in both states to be considered a good idea. Jackie Chan is actually a pop star in Asia. He has not only released 20 albums since 1984, but he often sings the main themes of his own movies, combining his acting career with music. He has also recorded songs in several languages, including Mandarin, Cantonese, and Japanese, which expanded his popularity across different markets. In 2008, it was discovered that a 56-year-old crime reporter named Vlado Tedeschi, who wrote about very disturbing cases, was actually directly involved in the same crimes he covered, deeply shocking authorities and the community. There is a lake in Western Australia called Lake Hillier that has naturally pink water. Its color remains even when the water is placed in a container, and it is believed to be due to microorganisms and high salt levels that produce special pigments, such as certain algae and bacteria that thrive in extreme conditions and consistently generate intense pink tones. In the Despicable Me movies, the language spoken by the Minions is actually a functional language written by the directors called Minionese. This language mixes words from several languages such as Spanish, English, French, and Italian, along with invented sounds, giving it a comedic yet recognizable tone. Voice actors improvised many lines, helping it sound more natural and fun. There is a hand sanitizer called Maybe You Touched Your Genitals. This product emerged as a humorous marketing strategy to attract attention, using irreverent tone to stand out in a saturated market. This incredible architecture is the Piano House in the city of Huainan, China. The building is shaped like a grand piano and is accessed through a staircase inside a giant glass violin. and it serves as an exhibition hall for urban planners to showcase their projects. Due to noise ordinance laws in Europe, club owners have created silent discos where attendees listen to music through headphones. Each person can choose between different music channels, creating a personalized experience without generating external noise pollution. It would cost about $42,000 to attend Hogwarts for 1 year if it were real. Someone took the time to calculate the cost in the real world. The estimate includes tuition, housing, school supplies, and other expenses, comparing them to high-level British educational institutions to give a more realistic idea of the price. It is possible to see a rainbow as a full circle from an airplane. This happens because at high altitude, there are no obstacles blocking the lower part of the phenomenon, allowing its complete shape to be observed when light and humidity conditions are right. On the ground, we usually only see an arc due to the horizon, but in the air, the circle can surround the shadow of the airplane itself. This beautiful landscape is located on Kochiya Hill in Hitachi Seaside Park in Japan. During autumn, the kochia plants change from green to an intense red, creating a spectacular visual effect that attracts thousands of visitors each year. The park is also known for its seasonal flower fields that transform the landscape throughout the year. In 2012, a woman from New York named Deborah Stevens donated a kidney to her boss and was fired almost immediately afterward. The case sparked controversy and led to a discrimination lawsuit, as Stevens claimed she was treated unfairly after the surgery. The legal conflict attracted media attention and raised debate about workplace protections in medical situations. Ants could award just like humans do. In fact, they are even capable of creating strategies, doing things like sending the weakest ants to fight first. Some species organize coordinated attacks, defend territories, and can maintain prolonged conflicts with rival colonies, using chemical signals to communicate, recruit reinforcements, and coordinate movements in a surprisingly efficient way. This photo, taken in 2011, shows a 2-year-old chimpanzee named Dudu feeding milk to a 2-month-old tiger cub named Aorn. The scene occurred in a controlled environment and drew attention due to the unusual interspecies behavior, showing how some animals can develop emotional bonds even outside their natural groups when raised under human care. Unlike most members of the feline family, tigers seem to enjoy water. They are good swimmers and often immerse themselves in streams or pools to cool off. If you inhale a pea, it is possible for it to sprout and grow in your lungs. Although it is extremely rare, there are documented medical cases where a seed temporarily germinated in the respiratory tract due to moisture and internal body conditions, although the immune system and medical intervention usually prevent the growth from continuing for long. A study from the University of Westminster in the United Kingdom determined that watching horror movies can burn up to nearly 200 calories, about the same as a half-hour walk. This happens because fear increases heart rate and adrenaline release, temporarily boosting the body's energy expenditure during moments of tension. Apple, Google, HP, Amazon, Disney, Harley-Davidson, and Microsoft started in garages. Although in some cases the garage was more symbolic than operational, these stories reflect the humble beginnings of several technological and creative companies that later became global giants, driven by small teams, limited resources, and a strong culture of innovation that shaped their later growth. In the late 1990s, the founders of Google offered to sell their project to Yahoo for around $1 million, but the offer was rejected. At that time, the search engine was still in its early stages, and Yahoo did not perceive its potential, a decision that is now considered one of the greatest missed opportunities in technology history. There is a small, heart-shaped island in Fiji called Tavarua. It is a very popular destination among surfers because of its world-class waves, and it is also frequently chosen for romantic trips due to its distinctive shape, as it features several internationally recognized surf breaks and limited access that helps preserve its natural environment. This is a high-speed macro photo of a water droplet reflecting a background image, and it is just one of more than 975 incredible photos taken by artist Marcus Rugels. He uses synchronized shots with high-precision flashes and liquids of different densities to create unique shapes and reflections, capturing tiny scenes that last only fractions of a second. Fashion companies Chanel and Louis Vuitton burn their leftover products at the end of each season to prevent them from being sold at a discount. This practice has been reported in the luxury industry as a way to maintain brand exclusivity, although it has also generated criticism for its environmental impact and waste. In recent years, several brands have begun to change these policies toward more sustainable models. There is a Turkish artist named Esref Armagan, who is blind but taught himself how to write and paint, and has been doing so on his own for 35 years. He uses his hands to perceive shapes and applies paint in layers, allowing each to dry before continuing, enabling him to build depth. His works have been studied by scientists interested in how the brain processes art without vision. Leonardo da Vinci loved animals so much that he often bought caged birds that were sold in Italy at the time just to release them, a gesture that reflected his deep sensitivity toward life and his interest in understanding nature, which also influenced his studies on anatomy and the movement of birds. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station see 15 sunrises and 15 sunsets per day, averaging one every 45 minutes due to the station's proximity to Earth and the speed of its orbit. All the characters in the movie Toy Story only blink one eye at a time. This detail was used in the original animation as a way to simplify the process and reduce rendering load, although over time it also became part of the character's distinctive style. In addition, that type of animation helped give them a more playful and less human feel, reinforcing the idea that they are toys. Instead of using spray cans, some artists create semi-permanent images on walls or other surfaces by removing dirt from a surface, a practice known as reverse graffiti or clean tagging. This technique is usually done with stencils, pressure water, or brushes, and over time, the image disappears again as the surface becomes dirty, making it less invasive and sometimes legal in certain spaces. In China, it is a popular trend for owners to dye their dogs in various colors to make them look like other animals. This practice is often seen in urban areas and on social media, where some try to imitate pandas, tigers, or other species in a visually striking way, although it has also sparked debate about animal welfare and the use of safe products to avoid harming their skin or fur. A 102-year-old man named Alan Swift from Connecticut drove the same 1928 Rolls-Royce Phantom 1 for nearly 77 years before dying in 2005. He received the car as a graduation gift from his father and kept it in nearly pristine condition for decades, accumulating relatively few miles and turning it into a highly valued collector's piece after his death. In 2009, a man named Dalton Chisholm sued Bank of America for $1,784 trillion because he was dissatisfied with their service. The amount was completely disproportionate, far exceeding global wealth, so the case was quickly dismissed by a judge, who deemed it frivolous and lacking serious legal basis. Sternutophobia is the fear of sneezing. Although it is uncommon, it can be related to anxiety or previous negative experiences, since sneezing involves a momentary loss of bodily control that some people perceive as uncomfortable or alarming. Outside the Tate Britain Gallery in London, there is a public restroom enclosed in a glass cube made entirely of one-way glass, where you can see passers-by, but they cannot see you. That is a test of courage. There is an art method called tree shaping, in which living trees are manipulated to create artistic forms, such as this living garden chair by artist Peter Cook. This technique, also known as arbor sculpture, involves guiding growth through grafting, pruning, and supports over years. The resulting pieces are not assembled, but grown as a single structure, combining art, patience, and botanical knowledge. If you left Tokyo by plane at 7 in the morning, you would arrive in Honolulu at approximately 8 at night on the previous day due to the 19-hour time difference between time zones. This happens when crossing the international date line, which creates the sensation of going back in time, even though it is simply a calendar adjustment. This is a Mercedes-Benz made entirely of 18-karat white gold, owned by an anonymous oil billionaire in Abu Dhabi. It has a V10 engine, goes from 0 to 100 in less than 2 seconds, runs on biofuel, and reportedly cost $2,500,000 US. Backpfeifengesicht is a German word that means a face that urgently needs a punch. It is an example of the direct humor of the German language, which combines several words to describe very specific concepts in a precise and forceful way. In 2011, a 46-year-old man named Mark Bradford had a serious altercation with a 13-year-old teenager after a series of matches in the game Call of Duty. The situation escalated tragically in real life, becoming a case that drew attention due to how a virtual conflict could have real-world consequences. There is a book called Everything Men Know About Women that has 100 pages, all of which are blank. If a Google employee dies, their spouse receives half of their salary for the next 10 years, along with stock benefits, and their children receive $1,000 per month until they turn 19 years old. This program is part of their employee benefits and aims to provide financial stability to families after an unexpected loss, making it one of the most generous in the technology sector and uncommon among large companies. There is a town in Alaska called Talkeetna that has had a cat named Stubbs as its honorary mayor since 1997. Although his role was symbolic and had no real political duties, he became a tourist attraction and a beloved figure in the community for many years. Mark Zuckerberg is colorblind to red and green. That is why he made Facebook blue, because that is the color he can see best. This choice also ended up influencing the platform's visual identity, making blue one of the most recognizable colors on social media. The Ark 2 shelter is the largest privately built nuclear fallout shelter in the world, constructed starting in the 1980s by a man named Bruce Beach. Located just north of Toronto, it is a 10,000 square foot shelter made from 42 school buses encased in concrete, powered by internal generators, and equipped with its own chapel, decontamination room, and radio station. In bees, males die after reproducing, since during the process they lose part of their reproductive organ, which prevents them from surviving much longer. This phenomenon occurs specifically in honeybees, where the drone dies after mating due to the physical damage it suffers. This is known as the lilac chaser, or the Pac-Man illusion. If you follow the movement of the pink dot with your eyes, the dots will remain pink. But if you focus on the black cross in the center, the moving dot will turn green. The movie Space Jam was for many years the highest-grossing basketball movie of all time, thanks to its huge box office success and cultural impact. However, that record was surpassed by Space Jam: A New Legacy, which achieved a higher global gross. Even so, the original version remains more remembered for its influence on pop culture. The last words of socialist Karl Marx before he died in 1883 were, "Go on, get out. Last words are for fools who have not said enough." According to accounts from those close to him, he responded this way when someone asked him to say memorable last words, showing his rejection of that kind of dramatization even in his final moments.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.